Live from 864 Sound in Greenville, South Carolina, it's the Wash Bros Podcast with your hosts, Matt Jackson and Clay Smith.
What's up, guys? It's Matt Jackson and Clay Smith, and we are the Wash Bros. This is going to be our third episode, and we're going to talk about branding and how we choose to brand and how it helps our businesses. So,
heck yeah.
You want to kick it off?
Yeah. Brandon. I think branding's really important, especially for me. I mean, as far as my logo and everything goes, I think that I was just playing around on a computer one day at my regular job, just trying to figure out, okay, here's the name of my company. You know, I was all excited about, I know in the last episode we talked about somebody helped name our company. So I got really excited and I'm like, okay, well, I've always been big on reviews. Told you that. I think everybody knows that. I'm really big on reviews. If you go to anywhere I've ever worked in sales, my name is at the top of the list on everyone. You know, the little bubbles on Google. Mm-hmm. That's my name. But so since I've always been big on 5-star reviews, part of my logo is 5 stars.
I like that. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so
learn new things every day.
Yeah, so
pick the third
it's
podcast.
Kind of good that we're talking about branding today, right? so yeah, the 5 stars is what it stands for. You know, 5 stars. That's a big deal to me. Like last episode, I said I'd almost worked for 5 stars. Mm-hmm. So I put the 5 stars in there, and then I just put C3 Wash Bros on top of it. It was like a clip art type thing. Like I didn't know what the crap I was doing. The stars didn't even align. It wasn't perfect at all. You know, I can almost pull it up. I wish we could pull it up here, but it was looking back now, it was very, very unprofessional. And I had a guy named Matt Barnes, and you know, he fools around with stuff. He's like, man, can I make you a logo? And I'm like, sure, dude, let's do it. Yeah. So he threw a logo and I loved it. A lot of people call it simple. I actually had somebody message me not too long ago and say, you want to recreate your logo? It's kind of simple. I said, no, we keep things simple.
It's clean. That's the word.
Yeah. So I may change it up a little bit here and there, but this is my brand. This is what all started everything. When people think of C3, this is the logo that kind of dings in their head, or this is the logo that they're looking for online, or you know, that's just me. It's not something that I'm going to change. I don't plan on changing. And you know, that's the logo that pops in people's heads when they think about pressure washing. The people that know me that think about pressure washing, they think about Clay and C3 Wash Bros. Yeah. And that's, you know, if you're scrolling for something on the internet, that's what you're going to click on, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you also want to maintain the continuity with the logo. You don't want to change it all. You don't want to change it so much that people are like, what is this?
Well,
he's diluting what he is.
Well, if you change it too much, I think that they're going to get confused as to who you are, and it's almost like having multiple personalities or something. Yeah. It's like, who is this guy? Yeah, who is this guy trying to be? You know,
look at the major brands. You have like Coca-Cola, Pepsi. They've had the same logo for their entirety because they've put the logo out there. It meant nothing, and then they brand it with their reputation and with their quality work and with who they are. Especially when you have a personal brand because it's family. Yeah. Then that's you. The logo doesn't really mean anything. It's the emotion that you attach to it because of what you do. And it's like you're known for that because of what you are and what you do, not because of, that's what the logo looks like. And I think people don't understand that. The logo's cool and eye-catching, but if you don't back it up with good effort and good work and being a good person, it really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. And, you know, I think a lot of people have different emotions towards their logos or their brand, which, I mean, it's natural, right? Everybody's going to think differently. That's just how the world goes around. But I would say as far as the logo itself, like that's something that for me, it's like motivation. It's like, how can I make my brand better? Like, you know, where can I put my brand? Where can I put it where people see it? And, you know, it's just, like I said, it just drives me. That's just something that's in my head. Like, if you ever seen the dogs with the stakes in their eyes, well, it's like C3 Wash Pros, the logos in my eyes when I'm, you know, when I'm working, that's kind of me. Like I'm working to make my brand better.
Yeah, it's you put your out, like by having a logo and a branding like that, you're making yourself official and like, hey, I'm real now. Like, say you're just starting a business. Yeah, I'm just like generic. I don't have pride in my logo. I don't have something that I put on something and it becomes like an identity of my business. You're not putting yourself out there and saying, I've set these standards and these are the standards I'm going to meet and exceed. And that's kind of what you do with your logo and your branding and
a lot of
what
people,
it represents.
A lot of people, I've seen a lot of guys, they don't even have a logo. They just put, here's a picture of me and my pressure washer, this pertains to anything, you know, here's a picture of me and what I do. And I hope that you call me.
Exactly. Like we say all the time, like we both came from sales and marketing background. So it's like, we see what it is. We're not a technician where they're like, I provide service XYZ, call me. It's people are technician minded. People will say, oh, generic company with no reason behind it. I don't have a purpose behind my company. I have a service and I can do anything you want. Just give me money. But they're not distinguishing themselves and standing out from everybody else who does that. So it's like, we're commodities, but when you brand yourself correctly, it's like, oh, C3 Wash Bros. Like, yeah, it's Clay. It's cool dude. Like, he has a reputation and like he's professional with what he does.
Yeah, and I think that's what you want to do. I mean, you want to brand yourself to make yourself stick out so that people will call you and they'll think about you. And you know, and I think I've run into a good bit of that. A lot of people probably get annoyed with all the crap that I post. I wouldn't say it's crap; it's good stuff, but the stuff that I post on social media. But all I'm doing is trying to constantly stay in their heads, because when that time comes and somebody says something about needing a pressure washer, they think of C3 Wash Bros.
Yep.
So. And a lot of stuff I run into, like these guys, like I think we covered it a little bit last episode. If you're not making yourself stand out in your own way, then you're not going to be noticed. Because if you're doing everything that somebody else is doing and trying to follow the advertising techniques that somebody, you know, you're trying to post the same kind of pictures, the same kind of videos, and trying to do the same thing that somebody else is doing, you know, especially locally, I would say.
Yeah.
You're not really going to stand out. You're really not going to, you're basically wasting your money, especially if you're promoting those ads, because it narrows down your chances of getting a phone call, getting a message, getting a text, because everybody is seeing the same thing.
Yes.
So if you put yourself out there differently than everyone, then you're going to have a higher chance, because
you almost want to peacock. You want to stand out. You want to say, oh wow, I've seen people pressure wash, or I've seen landscape people. I've seen these companies. They're commodities. They're everywhere. Like, but this one is doing it differently. And then they're going to be attracted to that because it's like, oh, this is new. Our brain is overstimulated with so many advertisements and things that it kind of throws blinders on everything that looks generic, because it just blends in. Otherwise, we'd be overly distracted with everything. And that's, I think, almost what like autism is. Like, you focus on everything as opposed to like, I'm like, my brain is filtering out what looks like everything else. So especially with social media, we see people jumping on Facebook ads, super generic stuff. Like, here's a video of me like pressure washing without my face on it, without my logo on it, without trucks on it, without anything that's like branding me. And they just look as a commodity. And
a regular person.
A regular person is like, hey, look, you got 20 of these people trying to sell me something. It's going to be a race to the bottom because they're not doing anything different. So customers who say, oh, what can you beat this price? Well, you're not looking any different than the guy who's going to be price shopping against you.
Well, you're not looking professional. You want to build value. You got to build value to your customer.
It's like, are they reaching out to you because they want the service done as cheap as it can be, and they're comparing you to 3 quotes? Or are they like, hey, I like what you do, I follow you, and like, I'm a fan? Yeah, and it's a different caliber customer. You get different price points out of them, and then they're getting a better quality service.
Right. I think that's very important. But going back to the monkey see, monkey do stuff is what I call it. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I've tried to do reels and stuff like you do, and obviously that doesn't work for me. So I just kind of stopped. It's kind of a prime example. Me and you try to do try to do some of the same things, but we kind of figure out
what works for you, put your spin on it, and if it doesn't work for you, don't do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's,
and then say, what's the newest thing I can do that he doesn't do?
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of how me and Matt, operate behind the scenes. We kind of, what we like to say, gauge each other on what we need to do, and whether each other likes it or not, we still tell each other that because we actually care about each other and we care about each other's business.
Yeah. It's like it's feedback from somebody who's not myself, who has obviously, oh, this is going to be the greatest idea because I heard it from one thing, and then it's just like, maybe it's not.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like you check each other.
right? Yeah, and we don't let our feelings get in between our friendship. We kind of like, okay, this guy's on to something. This guy, he's obviously been doing it a little longer than me, and I'm going to listen, and I might, I may put it in my own spin, I may not.
Yeah.
We kind of respect each other's decision makings and
Yeah.
opinions, and I think that's why we're sitting here today doing this.
Yeah, because again, it's like we're not chasing money, because if you chase money, you're going to chase it away.
Yeah,
It's like people who are so desperate and so thirsty and do everything for the almighty dollar, they miss building value and creating relationships and being good people that attracts money to them, and they just push it all away. That's why we're like on our last episode when we're kind of talking about fragile and people who are like, everything I do is for like growth, but they don't understand growth comes from within and from building relationships and focusing on our branding and focusing on what emotion and what value do we convey to our customers and to our community and to our friends.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I mean, like I said in the last episode, if you're not changing as a person to be successful, then
Yeah.
you're not going to be very successful.
Yeah. And business is one of those things you will grow so much faster than when you have a regular job. Because I had a regular job and I was like, 5 years down the road, I'm still the same person. I'm like, shoot, 6 months of business and gray hairs pop out.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is
definitely do it to you.
it's like this is rough.
I mean, I'll start working about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, so
Yeah.
I lose sleep thinking about business
Yeah.
sometimes. But that's not the life you want to live. I catch myself doing that sometimes. I'm like, man, I need to catch myself. I need to go back to sleep.
Yeah, but I also think like the longer you're in business, the more you settle in your ways and you grow. And then you're like, I'm not stretching myself to get to this point. I become at this point, and then it becomes easier. And then it's like, hey, I've built myself up to a certain level where I'm competent. So like my confidence comes out, and then I'm more assured in what I do. And then it's just like, oh, okay, like what used to be a push to get is now coming in regularly. So now I have to chase that next thing. And that's like where I am now with like, all right, the next thing for me is like trusting others. That's the thing that keeps you up at night. It used to be getting business, but now that comes into place because of like our branding has done a good job of selling itself for us. And that's like the next stage of you in business, like I say, is like chasing businesses isn't going to be as big of an issue as it is in the beginning stages. It starts to come to you because you do a good job of putting your brand out there. You got your Google reviews and everything is like, the branding isn't a logo. I think people think, oh, branding is a logo. I'd say it's everything. It's like your reputation. It's what do you mean to the community? And people spend all this money for fancy logo, fancy equipment, but they're not doing anything with it. And
yeah, if you don't have the knowledge of, I think we talked about this a little bit in the first episode. But if you just go out and buy a bunch of fancy equipment, spend a bunch of money on, logos and advertisement, but you don't have the knowledge and you don't know how to, farm your customers and maintain your customers and communicate with customers. You don't know how to keep up with your numbers. You don't know how to do your follow-up calls with the quotes that you've given.
Run the business.
I mean, everything I'm saying is basically, if you don't know how to run a business, then,
if you don't know how to be selfless and put your immediate needs ahead, if you don't know how to be selfless and sacrifice your immediate needs for like the sake of a customer or your business or your reputation, you're not cut out for business. It isn't, oh, I just made this much money chasing it. I did a job, I made this money, and then I go home.
Yeah, and you only do it one day a week.
Yeah, it's like a garden. You have to maintain the garden.
Yeah, farm your customers, like you're always saying.
Yeah.
You got to learn how to farm. And how are you going to farm your customers?
Yeah.
There's many ways that you can keep up with them. Give them a phone call, shoot them a text, shoot them an email. But maybe
again,
we can get into that later on. But
absolutely. But like, for me, what works so much for me is the branding aspect of it. I saw, like we were saying, everybody's generic. Everybody wants to be XYZ, pressure washing, every service. I was like, I need to figure out how to be the antithesis of the big players who are very generic. I was like, what can I do? And so that's kind of what, you decided C3 because of your family. I was like, at the time it was just me. So I said, I can go back to my roots as like the neighborhood kid, the college kid, pressure washing his neighbor's driveways as like a way to make money. It's like you're trustworthy, you're a guy of the community, and you're not doing it to like price gouge people. You're doing it more to serve and help. So I took that energy and I created the Matt the Driveway Guy character. And of course I was like, well, nobody has their face on their truck. So I was like, all right, well, I look around and I see the big HVAC guys around here. It's like Ron's or like Corley, all these guys, like the big home services in South Carolina are names. And they've branded themselves as names because it's like, we're a small town, South Carolina. It's like trustworthy. Like, it's like, call that guy down the street. And that was kind of the energy I had with creating Matt the Driveway Guy.
And I remember, what was it? The HVAC guy that had his freaking face on the back of every van he had.
It's 5-star.
But well, it's 5-star now. But it was just call Larry.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I remember that, and that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's like I drive down and then I think Corley has something similar. It's like you're driving down the street and this dude's face is plastered on his truck.
Like, what the crap?
It's like, all right, well, I can't take good enough pictures like those guys can.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, I can get somebody to create a emoji. So
something.
I went on Fiverr and I had my first rendition was like $70 on Fiverr, and it looked like it was drawn, and very like 2-dimensional, and I just kind of plastered it everywhere, and then I kind of grew to the point where it's time to wrap my truck, and my web design guy's like, hey man, like if you're gonna wrap your truck, I'd suggest like investing in a logo. I got connected with a guy who does a lot of the behind the scenes work for these big marketing dudes that sell these logos for like $3,000, and just went straight to the source. A guy in the Philippines that he's done a lot of work for me, and drew it by hand and then plastered it on my truck. So I was like, hey, everywhere I go with my truck, I have like the entire back window is my face that rolls up and down, which is pretty cool.
And you were saying that you and your wife pretty much drive your truck everywhere, right? So
yeah, it's marketing and business. I'll get jobs. I'll go to Publix. I'll come back from Publix. I get a quote because somebody's like, "Hey, I saw your truck."
Yeah,
it's like being memorable.
The QR code. The QR code is pretty cool.
Yeah, put a QR code. It's like, how do I keep it as easy as possible? And plus, cool thing about the QR code, it sends people to my website who then Google can keep track of that, and I can retarget them. So
yeah, so you see who if you have a good website guy. Me and Matt use the same guys. If you have a good website guy, they'll send you the analytics and everything on what where all your traffic's coming from. So if they scan that QR code, they should be able to tell you, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you're just collecting data points. So anytime somebody goes to a website, you say, hey, that one person went to the website. I can retarget that one person. I can say, hey, send this ad to people who've gone to Matt the Driveway Guy's website.
You want to make sure you're spending the money right. You want to make sure you're tracking everything, whether it be phone calls, text messages, emails, Facebook messages. You want to know what's working for you and your business, because me and Matt, it's not going to be the same for us, I wouldn't say.
No, yeah, like you have good Google naturally. I'm thinking because you picked a name with Wash Pro in it, so you have a lot of good organic reach. So I'm like, man, I've been focusing a lot on my Google, and then you get better reach than me on certain keywords.
Right.
So it's figuring out like what's working and how do you make it work more.
It's all hit or miss, really.
Yeah,
you just got to figure it out. It's just something you got to dig into.
Yeah, it's like it's not like, oh, if you're winning in this area, I'm like, okay, I'm not like emotionally feeling a certain way about this. I want to know. So I'm like, send me like why is this working, so I can figure it out and like reverse engineer it.
And sadly, I can't tell you.
He gets lucky.
Yeah, a lot plays a lot into it. Me and him talk about it all the time. I'm like, dude, I don't know what's going on.
Well, yeah, you never know who's going to click on your site and be like, hey, I got like 40 properties I want you to clean, and then you just hit it off with that guy, and it's like, man, that's a relationship that you created by like being a good person and having a good brand, and then it leads to a good business partnership.
Yeah, I mean, you could take all the digital aspect out of it and just go back to old fashioned times, right? So
you
could get lucky that way too. You never. Sometimes I'm at the bar or something, and I'll run into somebody and they own a business. Say, oh, I need something clean, or you're out getting a Gatorade or something, but in between jobs, and you have your shirt and they see your equipment and they're like, can I get a card? Or how are you putting yourself out there?
And I think too, by branding yourself and however you choose to, and being like hey, that's a nice professional looking thing. You got a nice hat. You look like somebody, you look different than 99% of the guys out there who don't have that stuff.
Yeah, the guys are just like
Bleach stained t-shirts, and they say, I can do everything.
They're like painters.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, are we wanting to be a specialist and be the experts at pressure washing, house washing, driveway cleaning, window cleaning, like a small category of things, and people, hey, that's the go-to? Or are we trying to be a generalist and nobody
And I'd say
cares?
that pertains to any entrepreneur that's doing a business, especially when I think you have to have, if you're going to offer multiple services, I think you have to have different departments for that and different professionals
Correct.
in every department that specialize in that service.
Yes, you don't want to do everything, because if you do everything, then you're going to be really shallow, and then people aren't going to see depth and value in you.
Yeah. And like I've said before, a lot of people talk about word of mouth, but eventually, word of mouth is great. It's a great source of, it's probably the best source of work that you get, but eventually you run out of people,
And it's a slow growth. People are always like, I don't need to advertise. I mean, there's so many people have flooded our space, and these are good people. You have to stay in front of people, and word of mouth used to be, oh, I'm going to just knock on my next door neighbor, or the person I go to church with, or the guy at the bar. But word of mouth is now Facebook. It's like, I'll use Facebook as more of a branding thing than truly getting business. I want people to see my branding and my videos, and then know me from my personable reels, where it's my face and I'm doing the work, and it's relevant. Do memes were something I used to do a lot that helped out. It shows that I'm a funny guy, and I like to have fun, and I'm not all business all the time. So that's all creating an emotion behind your brand. And by doing it on social media, you can reach so many people, and they can follow you, and they can be your fans. You don't have to know them, and you have word of mouth with them. And that's one thing that's cool about social media that you and I both utilize. It's like we're talking about the Facebook groups, and you can get tons of word of mouth out of Facebook groups off people you've never met. Mm-hmm. And no other time in history you could do that. It used to be like, oh, this is my dad, and he knows your dad, so you should hire him. Nowadays, it's like, if you're not getting in front of as many eyes as you can with something like social media, where you can put your brand image out there, you're really going to miss out. And because it's not just a slow growth. If you don't do it, you're going to be replaced by somebody who's doing it, and then you become irrelevant.
Right. Yeah. And going back to the branded thing, I'm sure you get this a lot too, but I'll go out places, be getting gas at the gas station, not even with any of my work stuff on or anything. They'll walk by me, but you're that pressure washing guy, right? I'm like, yeah.
It's like, oh, I've seen you on Facebook.
So you see me. Yeah. So, and it makes you feel like you've done your job. Like, they know who you are because you've done the proper work and put yourself out there to let them know that, hey, you are the pressure washing guy.
Yeah, and with branding, it's different. The cheapest way to get a lead probably isn't branding, but branding is the long-term investment into making customers come to you. So oh, I've seen your truck all over the place. All those people who've seen my truck and know me haven't used me, but they may recommend me to somebody. They may eventually use me, or they may not ever need my service, but they are a fan of mine.
They know who you are.
And that's the branding and the community is adding. But it's like, oh yeah, man, I know who you are. It's like, I live in an apartment. I can't help you. I'm not a customer of yours, but I'm a fan, and they know who you are. And it's just investing in getting yourself out there and being unique and putting your own personal spin on stuff, so you're not copying everybody else. I can run an ad with just me making a satisfying pressure washing thing, and I can get a ton of leads.
Or before and after.
But those leads aren't going to convert the same way as somebody who's like, oh, I follow you, I like you, I'm a fan of yours, and then I see value in you.
And I think with those type of ads, you're just getting people that are just wondering, wonder how much it would cost to get mine. You're not getting somebody that's already you're not getting somebody that's looking for your service. You're getting somebody that just come across your ad and it's like, hey, I think I need that done. How much would it cost? You're not getting a serious customer, I would say.
And that's another thing we talk about too, is the caliber of leads between, say, Google, where it's, hey, I need my house pressure washed. Who's going to be the first to pop up? That's a customer ready to buy. So it's a more expensive lead, but it's also a higher converting lead, and it's usually a better customer.
And they need it done.
Because it's like, hey, I have a need. Who's going to do it? So that's why our Google reviews are really important. having a lot of stuff on our like Google page. So many people in our industry have a website, but it's from like 2008 and it's not updated and it's not relevant anymore.
Yeah, and basically, I would say, like, as far as the Google goes, you're basically, when it comes to that, say the Google customer comes on there, I think that you're trying to outvalue the other. It's basically, I don't want to say the word compete, but it is basically a competition on who can outvalue who.
Absolutely, yeah, and you have to understand that Google algorithm will give them a lot of money to rank higher on those map packs.
So if I can't outvalue Matt, or Matt can't outvalue me, then we're basically wasting money when our ads pop up against each other.
So another thing too, people are like, I spend this much money on my ads, but they're only thinking at it from a technical standpoint. Oh, I did this, I did this, I did this. I was like, yeah, but your ad copy sucks, or your message sucks, your offer sucks. Like, you can go and talk to 100 people, but if every person you talk to feels awkward, or they're like, oh, I'm good, man, you're not going to close that many. But if you talk to 100 people and your branding's good and you're a good person and they sense value in you, you're going to close more leads. And the same applies to social media.
And that's why the SEO guys get paid the big bucks.
Right.
But yeah, branding's very important. You got to value yourself. You got to prove to yourself. You can't just show value. You got to prove to yourself that you give value, great quality work, and basically work for that 5-star review.
Yeah, it's funny because if anybody's in the pressure washing space or any type of space, and we all have websites, and we're all number one in Greenville. Yeah. Everybody is number one in Greenville for pressure washing.
I'm top rated Greenville pressure washer.
Yeah, we are all the best of the best of the best, and nobody can compete with us because our website says so.
Yeah.
But that's just what our website says. When everybody says the same stuff, you have to figure out how do you brand yourself to back it up with work and reputation. And I think nobody even thinks about that. Like, what I see, people, they get into pressure washing. Oh man, I can make good money doing this. Why am I going to change? And it's purely like, my sole focus is to get the job done as efficiently as I can and then be on to the next. But if you come in with a mindset of like, how can I brand myself and position myself here as like the premium service in the marketplace and be different, you're just going to get all the business come to you. And that's to me, it's working smarter, not harder. Like with branding, it's, if you have no money in the beginning, it's really tempting to kind of jump into, I can do anything. I can be a handyman just to get quick money. But branding is like that long-term investment into creating customers that come to you. And then it just, the problem then is like, how can I just manage all this workflow and then maintain?
Yeah. And I mean, as far as if you don't have a lot of money and you're trying to brand yourself, you're trying to get your name out there, there's many, many, many different low cost and free ways that you can get your name out there. And I think at the end of the day, it makes it that more special when you do finally get to where you kind of want to be, because a lot of people think that you have to have money to make money, and that's not the case. When you're at your lowest and you're broke and you don't have any money, that's when you find out who your true self is, and that's when you get to where you need to be as far as succeeding.
Yeah, if you have money and throw money at a problem, you can kind of dilute. If you got a ton of money, you can throw money at a problem and you don't see the trueness of it.
You can temporarily.
It's like a Band-Aid.
Get rid of your feelings. Get rid of the real world temporarily.
Or you could just dump a ton of money into something that's not a great product, but all that investment is going to cover up like a bad process.
Right.
And you see that a lot. But are you like optimizing where you can be? And I think that's like, you and I both started kind of the economic way. We didn't have a lot of money to put into this. We didn't have investors. We didn't have anything. So it's like, okay, if it didn't work today, I lost money and I didn't have money to lose. So like, you and I both started out using these social media groups or these Facebook groups, and that's like word of mouth and branding, and then putting ourselves in the community where we were the trusted person for this service. And then you get to the point, I'm at that point now where I'm focusing more on like Google than I am Facebook. And you're at that point now too, where like,
I'm so much ready to make a transition.
Yeah, it's like you have so much initial business coming in that like pays for you to have the ability to invest more in like better ways of customer acquisition,
and quality
like
leads,
Google. And like we're saying, like, man, this year you started out doing some like really high end homes because you're looking really good on Google and stuff like that. You're not chasing these kind of, I got 3 quotes type of customers who pick you up in the Facebook groups. And yeah, that's great when you're starting because it's a pretty much free lead, but like you're going to find a cap there. And then you've done a good job of like kind of shifting up. And then that's kind of the name of our game is we have a limited amount of time in our day. So we need to kind of trim the fat a little bit and then make sure that as we grow ourselves, so do our customers.
Yeah. And as far as like, I think me and you've talked about it before, like, what is it? You can't buy time, or timing is everything, or
you can always get more money, but you can't buy time.
you can't buy time. That's what I was looking for.
You like time is the only resource that we have that you can't say, oh, I just make more money.
Yeah. I mean, you can't build it up, overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned that hard way. I thought I was going to jump straight into it and boom, there it is. And I'm going to make a crap ton of money and I'm going to have a successful business and everybody's going to know who I am straight overnight. And
I'll tell you, everybody knows who you are. That's cool. But then it's like, this is tiring.
Yeah.
I'm going to go hang out with my cats.
Yeah. Because then you get people like, I think it was a few days ago. It comes in waves. Like you just get a lot of people, phone calls, and a lot of those phone calls are taking up the time you need to be on the phone with customers and talking with them. And when you get to that point, putting yourself out there, it's just it becomes overwhelming at times because then again, you don't want people to think that oh he doesn't have time for me anymore, or he doesn't. You know what I'm trying to say? It's just the people don't understand the quality of life that a business owner has to have.
Yeah, you kind of focus on what is vital for my business and then what is vital for my family and then what is vital for my mental health.
Yeah,
And then everything else is just
right.
extra. You can fit it in if you can, but you shouldn't prioritize that.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, your friends are going to know who you are, if they're your true friends.
And you grow as a person, you outgrow friendships, it's like,
unfortunately, it sucks. I mean, it's part of life, but it kind of sucks because you're just like, man, I didn't ever want it to be that way,
Yeah, but it's like, it'll all be good.
Yeah.